The dungeon was a tomb of jagged stone and shadow, its air thick with the stench of decay and mana. Sung Jinwoo stood at its heart, his black coat tattered, his daggers slick with the blood of a horde of S-rank beasts. The year was 2025, and he was no longer the weakest hunter. He was the Shadow Monarch, a force of nature, a god among men. His shadow army loomed behind him, their forms flickering like flames, their loyalty absolute. Cha Hai-in stood at his side, her sword dripping, her breath steady despite the carnage. Wu Jinchul and a small team of elite hunters lingered at the rear, their faces pale, their awe tinged with fear. The raid was routine, or as routine as an S-rank dungeon could be. The gate had appeared in Seoul's outskirts, its mana signature volatile, its threat level high but not catastrophic. Jinwoo had taken point, as always, carving through waves of demonic beasts with surgical precision. But something was off. The dungeon's mana pulsed erratically, like a heartbeat out of sync, and Jinwoo felt it. A prickle at the edge of his senses, a whisper in the void of his mind. It happened in an instant, recorded by Wu Jinchul's body cam, later dissected by analysts in hushed tones. Jinwoo's left eye, normally a steely grey, glowed a searing red for exactly 0.3 seconds. It was fleeting, a blink-and-miss-it anomaly, but it stopped Cha Hai-in in her tracks, her sword lowering, her eyes wide. Jinwoo didn't flinch, didn't acknowledge it, but his grip on his daggers tightened, and the shadows at his feet writhed, as if stirred by an unseen force. The moment passed, the raid continued, the dungeon was cleared. But the question lingered, unspoken but heavy. What had caused that glow? And what did it mean? Jinwoo sat alone that night in his apartment, the city's neon glow filtering through the window. Gina was asleep in her room, his mother resting in the hospital, her recovery a quiet miracle. The world saw him as a hero, a savior, but the mirror showed a man haunted, his left eye staring back, unremarkable, yet heavy with secrets. He opened his status window, the system's interface glowing in the dark, but it offered no answers. The red glow was a riddle, a crack in his control, and Jinwoo knew it was tied to the dungeon, to the shadows, to the truth he'd buried deep. This is the story of that moment and why it changed everything. The gate had appeared without warning, a tear in reality on the edge of Seoul, its mana signature a jagged scream. The Hunters Association scrambled, dispatching Wu Jinchul to assess the threat. Jinwoo, as Korea's top hunter, was called in, his presence a guarantee of success, but a necessity for a dungeon this volatile. Cha Hai-in insisted on joining, her quiet resolve masking a growing unease about Jinwoo's relentless pace. Beru, Igris, and Tusk, his most trusted shadows, materialized at his command, their forms a silent promise of destruction. The dungeon's entrance was a maw of black stone, its interior a labyrinth of caverns lit by bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie green glow. The air was heavy, oppressive, the mana so dense it prickled the skin. Jinwoo led the team, his senses heightened, his shadows scouting ahead. The beasts were formidable, hulking demons with obsidian claws, their eyes glowing red, their roars shaking the walls. Jinwoo dispatched them with ease, his daggers a blur, his shadows tearing through flesh like paper. Cha Hai-in fought beside him, her sword a dance of light, her movements precise, but her glances frequent, watching Jinwoo for signs of strain. Wu Jinchul, ever the professional, coordinated the rear guard, his voice steady over the comms. S-rank confirmed, but something's off, he muttered, his eyes on the mana readings. The core's unstable, like it's alive. Jinwoo nodded, his expression unreadable, but his mind was alert. The dungeon felt wrong, not just dangerous but personal, as if it were watching him, waiting. He pushed deeper, the shadows whispering in his mind. Beru's loyalty, Igris's vigilance, Tusk's hunger. But there was another voice, faint, unfamiliar, a hiss beneath the system's hum. You are mine. The dungeon's core lay in a vast chamber, its walls carved with ancient runes that pulsed with crimson light. A colossal demon lord sat on a throne of bone, its body a mass of muscle and shadow, its eyes twin furnaces of red. The hunters tensed, but Jinwoo stepped forward, his presence a quiet storm. "Stay back," he said, his voice calm but final. Cha Hai-in hesitated, her hand tightening on her sword, but she obeyed, trusting him, yet fearing the weight he carried alone. The battle was brutal, even for Jinwoo. The Demon Lord was fast, its strength rivaling a monarch's, its attacks laced with a corrosive mana that burned the air. Jinwoo countered, his daggers slicing through its hide, his shadows swarming like a tide. Beru tore at its limbs, Igris parried its blows, Tusk unleashed torrents of flame. The hunters watched, awestruck as Jinwoo moved, a god in black, untouchable, unstoppable. But the Demon Lord's eyes locked onto him, and its voice, a guttural rasp, echoed in his mind. "You cannot escape what you are." Jinwoo faltered, just for a moment, his left dagger pausing mid-strike. The system glitched, its interface flickering, and the voice grew louder. "Claim it, Monarch." His left eye burned, a searing heat that wasn't pain but power, raw and alien. For 0.3 seconds, it glowed red. A flare captured by Wu Jinchul's cam reflected in Cha Hai-in's wide eyes. The shadows surged, unbidden, their forms twisting into something feral, their loyalty tinged with hunger. Jinwoo's vision cleared, the glow fading, and he struck. His dagger piercing the Demon Lord's heart. It roared, collapsing into ash, the runes dimming, the dungeon stabilizing. The team exhaled, relief mingling with unease. Cha Hai-in approached, her voice soft but urgent. "Jinwoo, your eye, what was that?" He met her gaze, his face a mask. "Nothing," he said, but his hand twitched, the system silent, the voice gone but not forgotten. Wu Jinchul reviewed the footage, his jaw tight, but he didn't press. The raid was a success, the gate closed, but the red glow lingered, a question no one dared ask. Back in Seoul, Jinwoo withdrew, his apartment a fortress of solitude. Gina noticed his silence, her teasing subdued, her worry palpable. "You're scaring me, Oppa," she said, her voice small. He ruffled her hair, his smile forced, but his mind was elsewhere. The system was unresponsive, its quests blank, its stats unchanged. He summoned Beru, the Ant King kneeling before him, but even Beru's eyes held a flicker of something new. Fear or recognition. "My liege," Beru said, his voice low, "something stirs within you." Jinwoo dismissed him, delving into the shadow's memories, a technique he rarely used. He saw fragments, Ashborn, the original Shadow Monarch, his power a tide of darkness, the system a construct of divine will, and a red-eyed entity, formless, ancient, watching from the void. The voice returned, a whisper now. "You are the vessel. Embrace it." His left eye twitched, but no glow came, only a pressure, a pull towards something he couldn't name. He visited his mother in the hospital, her recovery a fragile hope. She held his hand, her eyes searching. "You're carrying too much," she said, her voice weak. He didn't answer, but her words echoed the voice, the weight of his power, the cost of his choices. Cha Hai-in called, her concern sharp, but he deflected, promising to explain later. Wu Jinchul sent the footage, encrypted, with a note. "We need to talk." Jinwoo deleted it, his instincts screaming to bury the truth, but the red glow was a crack in his armor, a secret he couldn't ignore. Driven by the whisper, Jinwoo returned to the dungeon alone, using a key from the system's vault to reopen the gate. The chamber was empty. The throne crumbled, but the runes pulsed, their crimson light stronger. He touched one, and the world shifted, his mind pulled into a void, a realm of black mist and red stars where the entity waited. It was no monarch, no god, but something older, a fragment of the universe's chaos bound to the Shadow Monarch's power. "You are incomplete," it said, its voice a chorus of screams. "Ashborn's gift is a chain. I am the key." The entity revealed a truth. The Shadow Monarch's power was not Ashborn's alone, but tied to a primal force, a chaos that craved destruction. The system suppressed it, but the dungeon's mana had weakened the seal, letting the chaos surface. The red glow was its mark, a sign of Jinwoo's potential to transcend the monarchs, to become a god of annihilation. But the cost was his humanity, his bonds, his control. The entity offered a choice: embrace the chaos, unlock the power, or reject it and remain bound. Jinwoo's mind flashed to Gina's smile, Cha Hai-in's trust, his mother's hope. He saw the dungeon's beasts, their red eyes mirrors of the entities. He saw himself, a monster unchained, the world burning under his shadows. "I choose my own path," he said, his voice steady, and struck the entity, his daggers infused with shadow and will. The void shattered, the runes fading, the dungeon collapsing. He emerged, unscathed but shaken, his left eye normal, the voice silent, for now. The incident was buried, the footage erased, the dungeon's collapse blamed on instability. Cha Hai-in confronted Jinwoo, her eyes fierce. "Don't lie to me," she said, her voice trembling. He told her half the truth, the dungeon's anomaly, a power surge, nothing more. She didn't believe him, but she stayed, her hand brushing his, a silent vow. Wu Jinchul watched from afar, his trust strained but intact. Gina hugged him, unaware, her warmth a lifeline. Jinwoo trained harder, his shadows sharper, his control ironclad. The system rebooted, its quests resuming, but he felt the chaos, a dormant ember in his core. The red glow was gone, but its promise lingered. A power to rival gods, a temptation to lose himself. He looked at his reflection, his left eye grey, human, but the shadow behind him flickered red, just for a moment. He was the shadow monarch, hero, protector, but also something more, something dangerous. The dungeon had shown him the truth, and he would carry it alone until the end. Jinwoo stood on a rooftop, soul sprawling below, its lights a fragile defiance against the dark. The next gate loomed, the monarchs stirred, the world teetered. He summoned Baru, Igris, Tusk, their eyes free of fear, their loyalty his anchor. Cha Hai-in's voice echoed in his mind, Gina's laughter, his mother's hope. The chaos was his, a part of him, but so was his will. The red glow had lasted 0.3 seconds, but its shadow was eternal, a question he couldn't answer. Was he man or monster, savior or destroyer? He stepped into the night, his daggers gleaming, his shadows trailing. The game continued, the stakes higher, the truth heavier, and in his left eye, unseen, a spark of red waited, patient, inevitable.